Lots of yakkers and slimy. Have a bit of fun? Yeah. Okay, so that ball sinker runs between the Lumo bead. Oh, it's not bad. Whoa! There we go. You can actually see it in the water column. G'day, my name is Luke, and this is my wife Jen. And here are our two growing boys, Liam and Elliot. We've been fishing, boating and exploring the pristine waters surrounding K'gari, Fraser Island and Hervey Bay for well over a decade now. And we want to share with you everything we have learnt along the way. So hit that subscribe button, sit back and enjoy the adventure. Something very, very different today. We're actually bait fishing quite a lot and using bait jigs for Liam mostly, because he likes to grab some yakkers and things like that to take back and use in the harbour and off the pier. So they've got a bait jig which has just been turned into an absolute mess by Elliot, so he's on unknotting duties. And we've caught a few tuskies and things like that. So we're dropping a few jigs down, just moving around the inshore grounds today. Kungul's just over there. We're sort of in the middle banks area, just sort of moving around, finding where the bait is, pulling up on the mark, dropping the jigs down to see what's down there, whether it's yakkers or something else or grinners or whatever. And if we find sort of what we're after, we're sort of staying for a few minutes, finishing it and then moving on. Of course, if we come across some bigger arches and we find some big fish, that's a bonus. But today very much is harvesting some bait and things like that. So, and we're once you put the bait down, you catch anything. It's like a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get. So great fun for the kids. What I'll do is I'll run you through the rigs we're using and things like that. So if you're bringing your young kids out for the first time to have a bit of a fish, it's a really good way of just getting them to catch anything really, like little stripies through to bigger stuff. And they just absolutely love it. They absolutely have a ball. So we'll run you through that. All we're using is a little bit of squid, jigs, and a bait jig as well, which I'll show you. All right. So really simple stuff today, and lots of fun. Bring it a bit closer.
A bait jig and this.
Bring it over. Lots of yakkers and
slimy, I think.
Slimy. Have a bit of fun?
Yeah.
A bit of fun?
Catching yakkers for Liam.
I'll show you. He's harvesting bait, so he's got plenty of bait in there. So he likes catching those, and then he takes them into the pier and down off the Urangan pier into the harbour, all that sort of stuff. And is quite successful with it. You see in our Instagram feed and on Facebook and that, you'll see photos of Liam catching big stuff off land-based, and that's sort of what he does. He uses them and herring quite a lot. So don't tell anybody. All the locals will get upset at us now because we're talking about yakkers and herring and what we use, but that's basically what they use. So that's the bait jig, folks. It's got a weight at the bottom and then just a series of small hooks going up. This one is in terrible condition because it got all knotted up and it's been untangled and cut and stuff. But if you go into your local tackle store and you ask them to show you where their bait jigs are, I'll show you something that looks like that. And that's what the boys have been using to catch all their live bait.
Not really fine. I can already see it.
Just take your time.
It's not one.
What is it?
I think it's a fish. That's what I think. It's a tusk.
Tusky?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, the tusk. Oh, that's a good tusk.
Get it. That might be
You have a measuring tape?
where is it?
Righto, folks, so I'll run you through a really basic rig that we're using today, but it's a versatile rig because you can upgrade it in terms of size and the weight of the sinker and everything, and you can catch pretty much anything on it. So I've got a Atomic Arrows little estuary rod here. It's a 6 to 14 pound, so it's It's quite light, but for the little kids, really easy to use. 2500, sorry, this is a 3000 sized reel. You can go 2500, and it's got about 12-pound braid on it. So nice and light. Connecting my leader, I've got a swivel. So I've gone braid to the swivel, and then I've got some fluorocarbon leader, which is about 60 centimeters long, and it's about 20-pound leader. And I just use a uni knot to attach either side to the swivel. And then down on the business end, where the actual rig is this here. So this is a size 2, it used to be red, but it's been a bit battered by fish this morning. It's a size 2 Gamakatsu bait holder. Okay, I'm a big fan of them because they're nice and sharp, they don't let me down. And then I've got a Lumo bead sitting just above the knot, and again I've just used a uni knot to connect to the top of the hook. Little Lumo bead, a bit of Lumo pipe, and then a small ball sinker. Now the ball sinker size you need to adjust depending on the current and how much the water's moving, okay? We've got a full moon tomorrow, so when I'm putting this down, I'm actually having to put it quite far forward of the boat before it comes down level and sinks. We're in about 10 meters of water, so the water's really rushing through, but it's enough to get it down there at the moment. I think it's about a size 6 at the moment, but you can go up to 18s and stuff like that. That rig is essentially a running ball rig. Okay, so that ball sinker runs between the Lumo bead and the swivel. So when it gets down to the bottom, it'll drop through the water column pretty much complete with the bait on the hook. It'll hit the bottom, and then you want your bait to come away from the sinker like that, and the bait to wave around up in the air. The idea behind the swivel is to stop line twist. All right, you can go, I've fished plenty of times, and you'll see it in other videos where I've used just a double uni knot instead of a swivel, but you tend to get a little bit more line twist, which means your hook can sometimes sort of come back around and hook onto the line and things like that. So I generally do that when the water's a lot stiller, less moon, less tide movement, and go with the swivel when there's a lot of movement around. So yeah, the Lumo beads, you can use red beads, Lumo, just depending on what you want to do. I use red quite a lot, but I've decided to change it up and go to the green Lumo ones, and it proves quite successful. So what I'll do is I'll just drop it down with a bit of squid on it and show you what goes on. Like I said, for all the fishers out there, the really experienced fishers, they'll be going, this is boring as well, am I listening to this? But if you're bringing the kids out for the first time, Liam and Elliot first started bait fishing with this sort of stuff, and they would have a ball. For hours on end, they would just catch little fish over and over and over and over again, and absolutely love it. So this is a really simple rig, cheap, easy to use, highly effective. Righto folks, really simple. There's the rig. I've bought some squid, a little packet of squid that you can get from, you can buy a little packet of squid from the bait shop. You can get them at servos, of course at your tackle store. It's about $6 or $7 for a small bag of squid, and that'll last a session for the kids really easy. And I'll just rig it up and we'll drop it down and see what happens. What'd you catch? Another little slimy? Slimy. Yeah. For hours. They'll just do it for hours and hours. It's the best entertainment. All right, so all I do, really simple, a little bit of squid. Don't be scared of getting the bait on you. And I just put it through the back, round it around, up. And then you'll notice on the back of the hook, don't get too close because we'll go out of focus, there's a couple of little extra little hook things on the back. That's the bait keepers. So you just move it up there so it's in there. Put one through the head. And that there is your rig that we're going to drop down and see what happens with it. Okay, where's the sun? Get in the sun. Nice and simple. Ulterra holding us on anchor lock. All right, the tide is really ripping through. So the tide is coming from the horizon here and it's ripping past us. And on the sander, we've got a nice showing of bait. And because the water's moving that way, I'm just casting a little bit up here let it sink down. It'll get to about here and you'll see the rod tip. So the thing you want to watch is the rod tip. All right, you'll know when it's on the bottom. Line's coming off, still sinking. Okay, it's on the bottom now. Bail arm across, tie them up a bit of slack, and then just watch that rod tip. It's getting bites straight away because there's just so many little fish down there. And this is the hard part. This is the part that's frustrating, is you're getting all the little tackers. Oh, and he's let go. So sometimes you got to let it back down. You got to let them really take it and attach themselves to it before you strike. And watch the rod tip. You can feel it when I've got my finger here. I can feel it through the braid. And what I'd like to do is just wind very slowly until I really feel a bit of weight there, and then strike and try and bring them up. There we go. Oh, no, he let go of it. He was on and he let go. So what that generally means is they're attached to the bait. They're holding on to the bait, but they haven't found the hook yet. And you'll know when you've lost your bait, which happens quite a lot, because all the bites, all the little taps will stop. You won't get any little bites anymore. There we go. That's a better fish, this. Oh, this is a bit of a better fish. You can actually see it in the water column. This is a little tusky. Now we have caught a few tuskies today that have actually been legal. This is a legal tusky net. I'll do it. Look at him in the water there, folks. It's a nice tusky. Oh, Liam, can I just come up the front, please, buddy? Check your size limits, bag limits, and all that sort of stuff. This guy will definitely be coming home with us. Beautiful tusky. Couple other essentials when you take the kids out fishing, folks. The guys at the tackle store will be able to tell you, sort you out. Good pair of pliers, okay, so you can get hooks and things out safely without having to stick your fingers in fish's mouths and things. And fish grippers, okay, really good for controlling the fish. Put it in the mouth, secure it, then you can hold the fish, and then use a towel or something like that to hold the body of the fish. So really handy. Those two are musts, I reckon. And then a brag mat. There's a fish and bait brag mat. All right. So you can check your state regulations on size and bag limits, and then use the brag mat to measure them. Brag mat because you can put the fish on it, take a photo and brag about it to your mates. So yeah, a couple of really handy items. See the folks at the tackle shops and they'll sort you out with them. All right. So the other thing we're doing, folks, is Liam's used, you had a yakka out the back?
Yeah,
yep.
Live yakka.
Big live yakka set out the back of the boat while we're doing this, and he's hooked up.
Oh, it's not bad.
Whatever it is.
It's fighting like a trev.
Oh, I think it might be.
No, it's not. It's a, what's it called? Trigger.
Big trigger?
It's a big trigger.
You sure?
Yep. Get on.
Big triggerfish. Taking a live yakka.
That has to be a pretty big trigger.
Hey, that's a pretty big outfit.
That's a trigger, that's a big.
All right, filming's about to go
massive.
terrible.
Massive.
Bring him up.
Whoa,
Whoa! High five, buddy. That's a massive one. Let's go up the front. That's where everything is.
the trigger ate a yakka.
Yeah. Let's watch out. That is massive. All right, folks. So I'll show you on the sounder what we're fishing on, and what you'll see is lots of bait. Okay. So we're anchor locked on our mark here, and when you see this sort of stuff rock up on your sounder, that's just masses and masses of bait fish. Okay, there's no real massive defined arches in there. It's just lots and lots of bait. You can see down below it, there's a little bit more sort of solid soundings showing. So there could be some predators down there. What I generally find is work out which direction. The tide's starting to slack off, so it's the tide's slowing up, so it's less effort to get our lures down at the moment. But what I generally find is where you pick up big bait schools like this, the current is moving this way, okay? And the bigger predatory fish generally sit behind the bait school, okay? They're almost like moving it along, sitting behind it, coming up and grabbing stuff every now and again. What have you got now?
Bait fish.
Yeah, bait, another one. Yeah. He'll do that all day. So what you can generally do is come onto your mark, onto your area, find where the bait is holding, and then I just use the jog function on the Minnkota. The jog function allows me to move 5 feet left, right, forward or back. So I just use that to position the boat near where I think the back of the bait school is, so I can try and target if there's any bigger predatory fish there. What Liam did with his live bait is he actually had that way out the back. So it would have been sitting 20 or 30 meters away from the bait school, because a lot of the big predatory fish also swim around it. They'll sort of circle it and then come in when they need to try and grab a feed and then duck back out again. So if you drop straight down on this stuff, you'll keep the kids entertained all day. All right, you'll just be catching lots and little things, and occasionally you'll pick up something decent. But if you want to really try and target the fish that are eating the bait, the big yummy stuff, you need to try and find the back of it where you'll find bigger arches. And quite often I'll be moving around and I'll find a bait ball or a bunch of bait hanging on a mark. I'll circle it and I won't see any solid arches around it. It'll just be bait holding on a patch of weed or mud or something like that, and there's nothing on it. So I'll just move on. I just won't even bother until I actually see at least a couple of arches sitting there sort of moving around that bait school. So yeah, so what I'll do now is I'm just gonna, because the tide's slowing up and moving, the bait's really sort of coming on top of this mark, I'm just gonna drop us back a few feet, maybe 10, 15, 20 feet, just to see if I can pick up the back of it again to try and fish that area. So I've drifted probably 10 feet back off of the mark now, and you can see the bait just disappearing. So they're up the front of the boat at the moment, and I'm really looking down the back here. I want to see if there's any arches sort of pushing up behind them. So there's not really anything there. So I am wondering whether we need to move on or keep hanging out in this area. I'll see what the boys want to do. There's a couple there, so we're sort of starting to get a little bit more of a showing, and that's behind the bait ball. So we might see if we can see what this sort of stuff is here. So folks, using the jog function, there's two ways I can do it. I can use the remote control, okay? So you usually wear this around your neck as you're moving around the boat, and the controls are all on there. And the good thing about having the Humminbird Solix is it links together one boat network with the Minnkota. Elliot's getting lots of bites. So the jog function is really cool. Just press this button here. So it's almost like a mirror image of the remote control, and we're under anchor lock at the moment. So the anchor symbol is there, and I can just use this little keypad to move myself around. So when I press right, the electric motor works out, taking into account wind and tide, and just shifts me 5 foot to the right, and it will do it any direction I sort of hit. So if you're just not quite on your mark, you can just jog yourself around very, very easily. So I can just sort of just go bang, I want to go forward a touch, and the electric motor powers up and just takes me forward a touch. Yeah, and this is the speed that the electric motor is using just to hold us here. So the tide's really slacked off now. So yeah, a very handy piece of kit. So you don't have to drop your anchor, retrieve it to reset yourself, all those sort of stuff. All those days are pretty much gone. You can just rely on this technology. This is a 6 meter fiberglass boat, weighs a bit, and that 80-pound Minnkota can hold us nice and tight onto a spot in some pretty rough weather. So they've definitely come a long way in recent years.